Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Cage Talk. Today, I have a special guest. We have him. We have the UFC commentator. We have the man himself, Jon Anik. What's up, bud?
What's up, buddy? It's good to be with you, man. I like the Tennessee Titans backdrop, man. I got to tell you, not what I was expecting to see, but I might have to start listening to that show.
Yeah, a big Titans fan, big football fan in general. I mean, again, it's nothing like football, right?
That's the truth, man. Titans are having a good year.
Yeah, we are, and I know you're a big Pats fan. It was a close game last night, man.
Well, I think it just proves to the world that Bill Belichick's trying to win games, right? He ain't trying to tank, and he's doing the best he can. I think people seem to want to forget the fact that the core of their defense was ripped out, right?
Yep, definitely.
Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung,
they all opted out
for the season because of COVID-19. So, it's kind of nice. I mean, having a regular season where week to week you really don't know what you're going to get because that has not been our reality. There've been a lot of blowouts. So I'm trying to sort of lean into the positive with this season, just like this year as a whole.
Yeah, this 2020 itself is a hot mess, and I think Bill Belichick is trying to prove that he didn't need Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's doing kind of the same. I mean, Tom Brady looked flat, the Patriots look kind of flat, so it's been an interesting week, man.
It's a tough year. It's a tough sport. It's a lot of it's injury driven, as you know, and sometimes the healthiest team is the one that sustains. But I'm excited to see what the Patriots can do in the future. It'd be interesting to see what they do at quarterback. Looks like Tannehill's the goods, man. I don't know. I mean, not a great Miami Dolphin, but he certainly has figured a few things out.
It was John Gase, man. I think it was John Gase. He's with the Jets, and oh God, it's rough. But again, it's all about plugging it into the system, right? It's who fits what system, right? And apparently, he works well with Derrick Henry. That they got that the play action works. So we'll see. Yeah. I'll be there Thursday. I live in Texas, so I'll be flying out to Nashville for the Thursday night game. So, but other than that, the Titans, we can postpone the Titans, man. We're here to talk about you, man. This show is about you. Everyone wants to hear about your backstory. How you became, a commentator and stuff like that, and just, talking about the UFC in general. Again, I know you're from Massachusetts. Just tell me a little bit about your, where you're from and stuff, bud.
So I grew up sort of in the Metro West pocket, west of Boston, but I spent a lot of time in the city, either working or going to Celtics and Bruins games. So, I was born in the city of Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm very proud about that, of course, as you know. And, I think for a lot of us growing up in Boston, you're watching the Red Sox every night, all summer, whether you want to or not. My dad was from Long Island, and we still had to watch the Red Sox every night,
Really?
So, that just shows you how that team and the sports teams in general just have the city by the balls. So I knew from a pretty young age that I wanted to work in sports. Always thought I would want to be a sports writer, and eventually migrated over to broadcasting, radio, and eventually television. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is just sort of rooted in my mom's side of the family in particular, just rabid Boston sports fans. And I guess the apple didn't fall too far from the tree.
Exactly. I mean, again, it's different for cities like that, like Boston, New York. I mean, baseball is like life, living now in Texas, it's a little bit different. I mean, the Rangers aren't the greatest and stuff like that. And again, I'm from Jersey, so I might burst your bubble here, but I'm going to show you something that you might not like.
Oh, so, I'm glad that stuff is out of the shot for the most part of this interview.
Yeah, so I'm from Jersey, so I'm a Knicks fan. I'm a Yankee fan. The only team that I kind of went south with again is the Tennessee Titans, because I started watching football in '99. Yeah. But other than that, man, go for the Yankees, go for the Knicks. Big New Jersey Devils fan. They have been good, but
yeah, they got a good fan base.
They do. Yeah, they really do.
We grew up. We were season ticket holders for the Patriots when they were the laughing stock of the NFL. So as much as the Red Sox sort of had that city for a long time, at least for my family, football was always the love, and my grandfather spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to send us all to the Patriots games. And they would lose to Dan Marino's Miami Dolphins
Yep.
41-3, and we would have to listen to the post-game show the entire way home. And that's sort of the way I grew up. So obviously when the team started winning to the extent to which they did, it was very special for a lot of us who saw one championship our whole childhood, the Celtics in '86,
Yep.
So it's obviously been very special. And I think I've softened a little bit in my old age. I was very happy to see Andy Reid and the Chiefs break through, whereas maybe 8 or 10 years prior to
You
that,
wouldn't even want
I
none
wouldn't
of
have had
that.
those emotions. So I do think as you get older, tend to root for coaches and teams a little bit. But in Belichick, we trust my man, and I'm thankful that he's still coaching. That's for damn sure.
Okay. All right. I mean that's the Boston pride right there, right? That's what it is. It's Boston pride all the way.
That's the
Actually,
guy, man. That's the guy right there. I mean, that's the greatest of all time. I mean, even just watching the last 2 minutes of the game last night, it's just the dude is
you can tell.
those things. There's huge gaps, right?
Yep.
And the NBA is not a coach's league, right? The NFL is a coach's league. And getting 45 adult men to run through a wall for you every Sunday at a COVID-19 climate is just not easy, especially when you're 2-5 taking on an 0-8 New York Jets team. So
Yep.
I had the Jets +10 and every which way but sideways. And I knew it was going to be a tough game, but thankfully the Pats got it done, man.
Yeah, there we go. And talking a little bit about your past and stuff, what was your first level, your first entry into marketing or what you do now? What was kind of your first gig?
So, I mean, I'll just show you, this is my first byline, right? So
Cool.
this is from the Milford Daily News, September 27th, 2001. And that was the first sports assignment I ever had. I made $25 after taxes cleared $17. And,
Wow.
that was almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
And my writing was always clean, but I felt like there were always more creative writers in the building. But I felt like when we would engage in a sports argument, I could talk circles around these guys. So eventually I sort of changed my goals a little bit from print journalism to broadcast journalism. And, I was hosting a boxing show, which ultimately led me down the mixed martial arts path. But I grew up a stick and ball guy. I've trained jujitsu, but I fucking hate it. I hope I don't have to go back. So I'm not a lifelong martial artist, but this has obviously become my favorite sport and my foremost passion. And, hopefully Dana White keeps me around.
Well, definitely. Well, you can see it. There's certain people that just have that drive, even when they talk about sports or a certain thing that kind of people love to see. They love to see that passion. And you, especially when you do it, man, when you're talking and you're doing the play-by-play and you're talking about these fighters, you can see the passion. And that's something, especially coming from, I don't know, when the UFC, I know that when they picked you up and stuff, I don't know what they gave you, like exactly, like if they said, hey, Mike Goldberg, if not, like you're the next person for Mike Goldberg, because I know Joe Rogan was still on. I don't know if Mike, what's his name? Was he still in it? What's his name? I'm drawing a blank right now. It was Joe Rogan and Mike Goldberg, correct?
Yes.
Were you still with them when, or he already left? That's
yes.
where.
No. So I was there. I started late 2011, and they moved on from him in 2016.
Got you. So you had the smaller fights, correct?
Yeah, for about 5 years. I've been to Brazil 27 times. Certainly put in the miles, and thankfully got an opportunity beginning the start of 2017 to do the pay-per-views.
Definitely, man. And that must be what a jump too. What was your first UFC event?
My first UFC event was actually the night Khabib Nurmagomedov made his UFC debut. It was January 20th, 2012 in Nashville, Tennessee. And I probably wasn't as nervous for that as I was when I did Bellator season 1 in 2009, when I was walking to the arena thinking, man, they got the wrong guy, But, you just got to let it rip and be ready when your opportunities present themselves and just lean into what your skills are. And that's what I tried to do. I mean, certainly I feel like I could drink 10 beers and call a football game, and I certainly couldn't do that with mixed martial arts, right? Football is just so second nature to me, and of course I wouldn't do that. And again, I respect the preparation, but the NFL for me, I just have followed my entire life backwards and forwards, fantasy football, rosters, depth charts, just immersed in the minutia of the NFL. So this at the beginning was out of my comfort zone. Now it is certainly
Gotcha.
my wheelhouse and probably more familiar to me than the NFL. But there was a time when that absolutely was not the case.
Definitely. So you obviously had to do your research, correct, on all mixed martial arts and all that good stuff, correct?
Well, it never ends, right? I mean, it's not
Yeah.
past tense, you know. I treat every show like it could be my last, and I really think that's the only way to approach it. Maybe I'm just not good enough to get hammered the night before and mail it in, you know. But I do think that, you know, my approach hasn't failed me yet. I have a fighter library of handwritten cards behind me, almost 10,000 fighters. I mean, it's insane. And that's just kind of the way that I've approached it, is to focus on the preparation and, you know, put every ounce of me into it like it's a game. And I don't know, it hasn't failed me yet.
Nice, nice. And how's your preparation going to events and stuff? How's that? Because again, a lot of people don't know what happens kind of behind the scenes. It's kind of basically they feel like it's just cut and dry and it's just out there. But how's that preparation? Especially, let's talk about like the last UFC event and that preparation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bear. Every show is a bear. I think a lot of people think we just show up and talk,
Exactly.
which
That's what I'm
would
saying.
certainly be nice. But my former broadcast partner, Brian Stam, would always say it's an open book test. You might as well show up with some notes, right? It's not like we show up and go through security and they take our notes away. So you might as well prepare. And I use every last hour that I can to prepare for the fights. There are things that have nothing to do with the fights that we have to prepare, show formatics and things like that.
Okay.
And just to give you an example, like Brendan Allen, Ian Heinisch, we lost that fight day of this past weekend because we woke up and it was learned that Ian Heinisch or someone in his camp had tested positive for COVID-19. So people don't understand what type of ramifications there are when we lose a fight, right? A prelim moves to the main card format, things get shifted around. It's not nothing, as they say, right? So we are very much conditioned to last minute changes and variables and weight issues and things like that. And I think that's why we've been able to sort of excel as a team in this COVID climate, because we're just conditioned to that. But yeah, man, you know, a show doesn't go by where we're not dealing with something, that's for sure.
I can imagine. Do you guys have like a sort of like rotation on who does what event, or how's that work?
So I do about 25 of the 40 or
Okay.
so shows. So I do more than half, you know, I don't know what the percentage is. I do all the pay-per-views and most of the big ESPN shows. So they never have us do more than like 3 in a row. The most I did was 5 in 6 weeks. I got home from Wichita, Kansas, and like collapsed in my front door and got influenza A and everything else. But it's interesting. Like I think about the NFL guys who do 17 straight weeks, if not more. So you look at Joe Buck's schedule, working 7 straight nights. Our show is a different beast than that. Obviously, it's twice the length, if not 3 times the length of these other sporting events. But I also don't know that I would want to do that 7 straight events from a preparation standpoint. I don't think that you can give every game its possible due, keeping up that type of schedule. So I have a lot of respect for the NFL guys that go 17 straight weeks. But for us, for the most part, you know, I probably do 2.5 shows a month and never more than 3 straight weekends. Thank the heavens.
I mean, think about that. That's draining itself. A lot of people, again, working in Dallas and stuff, in the airports and stuff, I could see how mentally draining flying could be. So it takes a toll out of people. I mean, flying itself, that's just a pain in the ass.
True.
So
I
imagine.
mean, the jet lag and the time zones. And, you know, we've been flying to Vegas to quarantine before we go to Abu Dhabi, and I live in South Florida. So, yeah, I feel beat up. I'm actually going to take a COVID test on my own tomorrow morning just to sort of make sure because, you know, something feels off. I don't have COVID, but I just feel like my body is beat up from all the time zone changes. And with 3 kids, I just want to be sure about it. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hard jobs out there, no doubt about it. You know, I love the devil that I know. But if you just think about it, 14 fights on a card, and there are 28 fighters, right? So how are you going to attack preparing those 28 fighters, right? So let's say the first guy who walks out, right?
Yep.
So how much time are we going to give him?
Mm-hmm.
And the way I see it is I'm going to give him as much time as the champion who's walking out. If anything, I might need to give this guy more time, right?
Yep.
So if I say, all right, I'm going to give every fighter an hour to prep my fighter card, to watch film, you do the math, that's 28 hours, right? So that's a big chunk of a work week. So if I have a show the week before, that prep time gets condensed and there's only so much you can do. So obviously every waking hour I have is diving into these athletes, and we'll keep doing that to make sure that we shine the best possible light on what we believe are the greatest athletes in the world, my man.
And I mean, you're doing an excelling job, man. I mean, I love hearing you. I love your analysis, and just there's certain people that have that voice or the flow, and you definitely have it, man. Again, especially with COVID going on, right? Now I feel like there's a UFC event like every other weekend. So that's just a lot of preparation as well. Just kind of jam packing all the events that were supposed to happen now are happening every other weekend, which is fine with UFC fans and fans in general of the sport. They love it. There's always a fight. Either it's Bellator, it's UFC.
Right.
There's something always going on. But for you, you're working and like you said, you're jamming, you're cramming, you're doing that. That sounds exhausting, man. It sounds like a headache.
Well, dude, I ain't gonna lie to you. I haven't done much media since this last weekend, but I came home to 3 kids and my wife needs a break. And dude, I slept 21 and a half hours. I kept trying to come downstairs and help. And like my body didn't want to be vertical, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's like chronic fatigue syndrome or what, but like I was feeling something I had never felt before. So it is real when you're going up and down and changing time zones. And, a lot of our crew is based in Vegas. I wish I never moved out of there. This year would have been a lot simpler. But yeah, the week to week is tough. There's no doubt about it. And I know for the whole staff, there's going to be a little bit of a break after December 19th. And it'll be a welcome one for sure. But again, this is the beast we know. And you do become conditioned to things in life, right? Like I'm in Florida now where it's humid. I used to live in Vegas where it was dry. I used to always say I prefer Vegas. Now I prefer Florida because this is the devil I know. So I think the body and the mind have a way of adapting more than we even think they can.
Gotcha, man. One quick question, because it's probably an interesting story if no one's heard about it. I mean, your famous 209 tattoo. Can you explain a little backstory on that and show the audience? I think you got it where in your arm. I think that's
right here. Can you see it? Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
Right.
So
all right. So I hate when folks are long-winded. So I'm going to try to tell this story as efficiently as possible.
Man.
I'm going to give myself a minute. All right.
Okay.
So Nick Diaz was my favorite fighter. When I was cutting my teeth at ESPN and I was doing a weekly chat at ESPN.com, Nick Diaz was the guy. And then Nate Diaz, I would always tell people who are trying to get into MMA, go watch Nick Diaz. Go watch Nick Diaz versus Paul Daly, and that'll get you into the sport. So, we were doing our Anik and Florian podcast, and in 2015, I was just trying to make things interesting. So when Betch Correia fought Ronda Rousey, I said on the air, if Betch Correia beats Ronda Rousey, because I had a place for Brazil in my heart, I said, I'm going to get the Brazilian flag tattooed on me. And nobody paid attention because Ronda was a huge favorite. She dusted Betch, and it was no big deal. But I kind of like the idea of the tattoo bet. So when Nate Diaz fought Conor McGregor on about 2 weeks' notice, I thought it'd be a good time to do the bet. Say, you know what? I love the Diaz brothers. I love a lot about what they stand for. I like numbers. So the 209 seemed like a good tattoo, one that I would be comfortable having for the rest of my life. And so we did that tattoo bet. You know what? If Nate Diaz with no training camp can come beat Conor McGregor, we're going to get the 209 tattoo. And it became a monster. Obviously, Nate Diaz sort of started talking about it during the fight week, which was not ideal, I think, at times for my bosses who called me not very happy.
Oh, really?
But all's well that ends well, right? It's probably the most I've ever done to sort of push a pay-per-view. And Nate and I certainly have buried the hatchet. He understood there was no ill will. And if you listen to the audio on the Anik and Florian podcast, I said very clearly, I might get the tattoo anyway, And so the plan was really, once it was on his radar and he was like, Jon Anik better get a motherfucking tattoo or I'm going to whip his little ass. Once he said that before the fight, it was like,
you're done.
I was getting the tattoo even if he lost. So it made for a better story that he won, and all's well that ends well. But, I vetted it with my wife and with Ken Flo before I did the show. My wife thought I was a little nuts. So did Ken Flo. But I can assure you it will not be the last tattoo bet that I do. I mean, that's the only thing I can promise you today.
There you go, man. Maybe you can do like a Khabib tattoo and say if he comes back, because, again, there's talks, but who knows? I mean, the sport's crazy, and people retire and they come back. and we'll
That's
see what
not a
happens.
bad idea for a tattoo bet. You know,
Right?
Paul Felder is stepping into a main event
He
this week.
is.
And so someone suggested if he wins, that I do some sort of Irish dragon tattoo. And I think it's a pretty good idea. I'm not going to do it. The next tattoo I'm going to get is game bred. The
Okay.
word game bred for Jorge Masvidal. He and I go way back. We both live in South Florida. You know, that call of his knockout of Ben Askren is special to me. So the totality of that game bred has enough meaning for me to get the ink. Not a tattoo bet necessarily, but that's the next tattoo we're gonna get.
All right, that's cool, man. That's always
Right on my
interesting.
neck, bro. Right on my
Oh
neck.
man, I don't know. The wife might not. Yeah.
Well, it's not about the wife. It's if I did anything else for a living, I would get it on my neck. I don't care, you know, as
Oh,
long as
right.
my
Okay.
daughters were like didn't think a neck tattoo was anything, you know. But I
Gotcha.
don't want to have to put makeup on my neck every time I do television. So we'll
Yeah,
find
I mean, you're always on, so I don't know. That might be maybe another spot. I
yeah.
know that. But talking about South Florida and all of this, what part of South Florida are you from? Because I originally was living in South Florida. I was living in Miami. I was in Kendall. So I don't
Okay.
know where were you in
I live in Boca
Orlando?
Raton, like
Oh,
40 miles south
Boca.
of Miami. Yeah, not far from American Top Team and a lot of the schools down here.
Yeah, I was living in Boca back in 2011. I actually was working at the Marriott on Airport Road. I don't know if you know
Yep.
Airport Road right there. I mean, again, Boca's this big.
Right.
So I lived right off Spanish River Boulevard. So that's funny,
I
though.
know well. Yeah, we moved down here from Vegas like 5 years ago. So still getting our feet wet down here, but my whole family's down here. My twin brother, my mom, my other siblings. So it just kind of made sense. And at the time, I was going to Brazil 6 times a year. Now we
Okay.
don't go anymore, but when I moved, it made a lot of sense.
Well, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, Boca's nice. It's almost like there's a lot of New Yorkers.
Yankees fans.
Yeah. I know, man. I would when I would work at the LA Fitness right there. I mean, they would come in. Their snowbirds would come in like crazy, and they had just that thick New York accent. Like, man, it's like a little New York here, man. So it's pretty funny though that
Yeah.
you know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But, again, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. Again, I usually have fighters, but why not have broadcasters and stuff like that, and people that are connected to the MMA community. I had John Hackleman come on as well, and he gave me his insight, and it was cool because again, he was cornering, Glover Teixeira.
Sure.
I mean, Glover looked good. Glover looked good. I was very surprised. Did you think that was going to go that way?
I thought he had a great chance to win. You know, I just think that he was miserable in training in 2018, and
Yep.
he is anything but right now. He just has found whatever elixir was missing, and I think he's a competitive live underdog in a championship setting against Jan Blachowicz right now. I mean, I think he'll be the underdog, but good for him, man. You know, he's got to figure out a way to not get off to such slow starts and get tagged early, because I think Jan might be the guy to make him pay for that. Because if Thiago Santos maybe showed a little restraint, you know, maybe he's able to knock him out there early on. But couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And I hope Thiago Santos will be back, because he's a really good dude as well. You know, you get close to these guys. I hate when people are like, oh, it's too bad somebody's got to lose this fight, right? I hate that shit. But in this particular instance,
It's
I
different.
really hated that one of these guys had to lose the fight, given all that Santos had been through. But I still think his time will come.
Well, definitely. And I think probably the funniest thing of the night was Andre Arlovsky saying that he could see you. Your reaction was fucking it was priceless. Because it was like just sure like surprise, and then you're like, and then you look and you're like, yeah, I see you too. But it was classic. It was so fucking funny.
Well, I looked, so I heard him say, I see you. And
Uh-huh.
so I thought he was pointing to like a coach or another fighter. So
Uh-huh.
I'm looking at the monitor being like, all right, I'm going to give Andre a few minutes to have this moment with whoever he sees.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's looking at me. So I'm like, oh, okay. All right. You know, because it is a weird setup, right? The athlete like walks right by me
Mm-hmm.
to go be interviewed by me from a different room. But hey, man, 2020, right?
Yep. I mean, hey, at least the sport is still going strong. I mean, Dana White's doing is incredible. Again, what you're doing, your work is incredible, and I do appreciate you coming on, man. It's been more than an honor to have you jump on, man. I know you're a busy guy, You probably got some fighter analysis to do, man. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I want to just say I do appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a
My
pleasure.
pleasure, brother. I enjoyed it.
All right,
I would
ladies and
be
gentlemen,
happy to come on anytime. Tighten up.
tying up, buddy.